What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bischoff and Brown right here on the Detroit Lions podcast. He's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. We are back. Man, did I time that was a really good timed intro. For 10 seconds, I am getting this intro down better than anything else. It's why I struggle with all my other shows. But
you're on your A game.
Yeah, well, I'm not sick anymore. I got coffee. We're good. And the Lions are 10-1, best record we've seen since like 1934. First ever 10-win back-to-back season. It's been great. But Scott, my man, how are you?
I'm doing good. Good. I'm happy to be back joining you doing this. How are you doing?
I'm good. We are good. It's look, Lions win in a very convincing way. We're just going to jump right in, and we were talking about this a little bit before we click record here, but it does feel like the Lions, even though they won 24-6, they left plenty on the bone, kind of in a sense, against the Colts. And as we enter Thanksgiving, it's one of those where it's like your nieces and nephew always have like a little bit of extra on the plate. Kind of the same deal here. There was a little bit left on the plate with this Lions win, but it also felt like last year's Tampa Bay game where the Lions went on the road. They won 20-6. Very similar fashion here. They could have easily took them out back and just old yellered them. It felt like at any moment, and they
old yellered them,
but they didn't. And kind of the Colts beat themselves with penalties. Ogletree had a drop touchdown.
Yeah.
But the Lions still just really, it felt like they controlled the game. They had time of possession. They could run the football at will. But the
game was never in doubt. It just wasn't.
Yeah. How weird is that? Like, isn't that so weird to feel?
Yeah.
It's so weird to me. Like, I'm so used to being like on edge and eager and like worried, and I'm no longer worried. I'm like confident, just kind of sitting back, hands back, like just chilling, like excited of what's going to happen because they're going to take the team and just pound them. And it's kind of what they did in a sense, but it did feel a little bit like they left a little bit on the table. I don't know how you felt about it, but that's how
exactly how I felt. I felt that like their offense did not play particularly well. Goff looked rattled from the start of that game. I don't know what it is or what it was. And I mentioned this to you earlier. Like, you know, I'm feeling like our Goff's he's not playing great today, and he looks rattled. And then at one point they show his numbers, and it's like, I need to shut my mouth with this internal dialogue of any of this stuff, because his numbers are silly. He was 20 of 24, I think, at one point. But there was a lot of double clutching sort of. It's almost what it felt like is they were, and Goff is good enough to figure this stuff out, but maybe they were, because they rush 4 so much, and I don't know if I could be wrong about that, but it felt like they rushed 4 almost the entire game.
Yes, they did.
And they were dropping players into areas of coverage maybe that he wasn't either sure about or he wasn't necessarily anticipating, which is what you should do if you're scheming up, trying to you stop the Lions on, just trying to stop their offense. But there would be moments where it'd be like he was wanting to put the ball in a certain area and then he would go away from it. And TV copy's impossible. You just don't know.
Yeah.
But you know how it is. Like when you see Goff looking a little confused and a little bit rattled, feeling pressure, maybe kind of seeing ghosts kind of thing. Yeah. It's never a great thing. And it felt like we were watching just a little bit of that. Mm-hmm. But he fought through it. He played fine. And their offense was good. And, Gibbs was ridiculous. Montgomery had a couple of runs that are just, kind of pick you up out of your chair kind of runs.
Set the tone. Carry me out.
And it's just like teams that can either run on you like that. And we've talked about this so much that they're just so dimensional. And it's not just, St. Brown had a bit of a, I don't know, he had a fine day, but it wasn't like they saw that he saw a lot of work. And maybe that has to do with the way Indy dials up their coverages and other things. But they spread it around. J-Mo looked really good in this game. The running backs look good. I thought this could have been an opportunity for a big Laporta kind of game.
Yeah.
Still, not a great performance, but they ran away from a team that's been really difficult to. I think Indy's covered pretty much every game except for the Lions game. Maybe there's one more that I'm thinking. I think you mentioned that last week that they were tough to cover on.
Yeah, so like 8-2 against the spread or something like that.
Yeah, so that's a tough team to pull away from. And then the last thing I'll say about the Colts, if you just looked at Anthony Richardson's stats in that game, you would think, wow, he played terrible. But I don't think anybody who really watched that game would say that.
Right.
Like, you have the drop touchdown. You have that tight end lost the ball in the sun, it looked like, on a little, I don't know, whatever a skinny post kind of a route. And it's just like that guy had a bad day. Ashton Doolin got deep on, I think it was Kendall Vildor. And
Richard got deep was him. He's terrible.
Like Richardson drops this throw in the bucket. It's just such a perfect throw, and he can't get 2 feet. And it's like, and there were other throws. There was a bunch of throwaways that he just heaved into the stands, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I thought Richardson played pretty good against what has been a really dynamic defense. Stats were not there. Obviously, a bunch of drops and lots of other strangeness going on. Josh Downs gets hurt and comes back in, kind of thing. Downs is
Pittman got hurt early too.
Who's that?
Pittman got hurt early. First out.
Yeah, he did. And then one of the things I thought was really good is the Lions just shut down Jonathan Taylor, just locked it up, right? So they made that offense one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
And Richardson's fine, running the ball. I think he's a monster running the ball. They didn't do a lot of stuff, but when they did some quarterback power stuff, you could see how that works.
Yeah.
But he wants to push the ball down the field. He's really good at it, and they're not helping him much. So again, if you just look at the stats and you see whatever the numbers are, it's ugly. But I think he played better than what those numbers look like. Doesn't matter. The Lions ended up kind of dominating that game and in what looked like a bit of a boring sort of mail it in kind of performance.
Yeah.
I would say one area we got right last week was the number of reduced possessions for everybody. I want to say the Lions had the ball 3 total times in the first half, as did, I think Indy may have had it either 3 or 4 times, but it's still, there was some with the Lions. It's when you run the ball like that, you're taking a lot of clock off, and it just seemed like they were comfortable and happy playing that kind of a game. And I think that's the takeaway: is that if we're going to score 24 points and the Colts are not going to have a chance in this game. Okay, cool, and that's what it looked like. Yeah, and it was a bit of a dominant performance, while leaving enough on the bone, like you're saying, that they could have had much more in that game. And but it doesn't matter. You're at this point, it's win and move on. So yeah.
No, I agree. And I'm going to hit back on some of the points that you made. Starting with Goff double clutching, he did do that quite frequently, and I think what it really was is, yeah, they were bringing 4. They rarely brought 5. They rarely bring 5. I think they bring 5 rushers maybe like 2% of the time. It was really low, like one of the lowest totals in the NFL. So they don't really blitz. They send 4, drop 7, send 3, drop 8, those types of things. So I think that was what was causing Goff to look one way and have to look another way, which is why he was spreading it to JMO and Tim Patrick and Amon-Ra and sprinkled in, Brock Wright and Sam Laporta. My biggest takeaway when just watching some of the All-22 was, I know he got targeted 6 times, and he's been targeted, I think, in total 21 times over the last 3 or 4 weeks. But Sam Laporta is not running the same way he ran last year. And I don't know if he's running scared. I don't know if it's because he is truly so banged up. I don't know if that hamstring groin injury that he suffered in the summer is still playing an effect. But like he caught a tight end screen early in the game, a design screen, and looked pretty fluid. But then later in the game, he runs, and I give kudos to Zaire Franklin, the linebacker for the Colts. He's a great middle linebacker, but they send Sam Laporta on the left side of the formation and exit motion him towards the sideline to the right side of the formation, and he bursts upfield after ball snap, and he runs a snag route. And this snag route is normally designed to go like maybe a yard to the middle of the field. And he continues to like drift. And I think by him drifting, it put Zaire Franklin in a better position to get to his hook curl drop. And it forced Jared Goff to double clutch because he thought he was going to stop in the opening and he was going to rip it in there and do exactly what he did. Because if you think back to the Saints game, and I had to go back to my Twitter and like type it in and look through some of the old film, Sam Laporta was running over the middle of the field on deep crossers and shallow crossers like a madman and just getting, he could have gotten leveled multiple times, but he was fearless and he ran full speed. No drifting, no wasted motion. You play back the Tampa Bay game. He's hitting speed outs like his job depended on it. This year, I'm not seeing that. And I just feel like he's a little bit off. So that was one concern I had going out of this game. And I was even texted Jeff Grinkman about it. I'm like, something's off here. Like he had a good block and then he caught a pass in the open field. I think on mesh early or later in the game and like turned up field and like just shied away from contact completely. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I'm a little concerned with Sam Laporta. I never expected him to get back up to 80 receptions. I mean, the chances of him doing that ever again in his career are really slim. I mean, let's just call it what it is. But he's not really even on pace to get close to like 60 receptions, even 55. Like the production has dipped down, and I know he's been banged up, but like just a little concerning. And I think it's throwing Goff off a little bit because he's not trusting him, and I think that's causing those problems. So if they can somehow rekindle that fire and spark that they had last year on the back half of this season, going into the playoffs, that would be huge. Defensively, though, kudos to Aaron Glenn. They've gone like, 10 or 12 quarters now in a row without giving up a touchdown. They are playing just so defensively sound. And Malcolm Rodriguez stepped up in a big way. He played phenomenal. Jack Campbell played well again. Carlton Davis, he got banged up, but he played well. And I know people will point the finger at Tyrion Arnold being a rookie and saying, hey, he's not necessarily doing what he's supposed to be doing at times. He gets penalized. He's not looking for the football. Even I ridiculed him, but he is so much better than Kindle Vildor. We cannot go another game with Kindle Vildor at outside cornerback position. Like we just cannot. And I am very surprised that even when they got out of nickel and dime packages, that they did not take Brian Branch, bring him down into the nickel role, put Amik outside, and have Brandon Joseph back there as the other safety. Like that is, to me, an upgrade over Vildor on the outside. Amik needs to play more on the outside if anybody's going to be banged up.
Do you feel like that's what happens this week?
I think so, but again, I think Tyrion Arnold will be back for starters. He's practiced fully 2 straight days so far.
Yeah, but I think we're both expecting no Carlton Davis.
We are expecting no Carlton Davis. So I think Emmanuel Mosley will get a look. I think Amik will get a look there. Obviously, Arnold will be back. They will sprinkle in Vildor, but you've got to try something different because the Bears are just different weapon-wise. I mean, I'm not discrediting Pittman or Downs or Alec Pearson. We'll get into the Bears here in a minute, but like they are just different. So, I would like to see some adjustments made in the secondary. And I get it. It's working. It is working, but it didn't work all of the time. There were 3 straight targets to Vildor that were completions, and Caleb Williams will key in on that. And he will trust that with Roma Dunze or Keenan Allen or whoever. It's a
little different game, though. If you get the touchdown catch and you get the Ashton Doolin catch,
you eliminate penalties. I mean,
Yeah, you get rolling, you get that team rolling on offense, and 24 points might not have been enough. I mean, obviously it was, and it sounds nitpicky. You know, they only won 24-6. This is bullshit.
Yeah,
you know, but you know what I mean. I think we're both there. Where that game was closer than, while it wasn't close, it was still. There were moments where there's things that they could have done a little differently, and maybe that'll be something they do think about.
Yeah.
24-6, 10-1, it's all good.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to touch on just defensively was DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil played so well in the middle. Aleem McNeil made number 68, that poor right guard. He obliterated him time after time after time. I mean, I don't know what that 80s song is, time after time, but put that on and play and put the film on, because it was just every single play he was lighting him up. So it was great to see. And you need everybody stepping up. And when you think about it, how well they've played defensively over the last 5 games, over the course of the season, but really these last 5-6 games without Aiden Hutchinson, without Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnett, Marcus Davenport. We've gone down this list, but they did this with Terrion Arnold being out, all those names I mentioned, and they still were able to do this. And it's just like, they're that much better than everybody right now. Imagine if they had all of these pieces still, how much better they would be. It would be really one-sided, I think, collectively for this group, and they would be rolling. So happy with the win. Obviously, like we said, they left a little bit on the bone, a little bit more to be desired there, but maybe they clean that stuff up. And even Dan Campbell hinted, like, we've got to execute better. We got to clean some stuff up. So we'll see if they do that this Thursday, Thanksgiving, against the Bears. And that's going to be where we transition here. Lions-Bears preview. What do we expect in this game? I don't think the Bears are going to be a team that we talk about for the playoffs. They're 4-7. They would really need to go on a run here. They got to play the Lions twice.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, but can Caleb Williams come into Ford Field with this atmosphere and this crowd in probably his toughest road game, if we're going to be honest, as far as environment and hostility? Can he step in and play like the number 1 overall pick that he is? And you mentioned this before the show, he's starting to kind of put some things together. So I'm going to turn this over to you. What do we expect in this game?
It's okay. He's going to fight playing within the structure of an offense, I think, his entire career. I just think it's going to be something he has urges to do. And whoever is designing an offense needs to get some buy-in from him, as far as like, hey, listen, you need to get rid of the ball. Like there were moments of even in last week's game where you got to get rid of the ball. So we almost separate. I would say you'd separate Caleb Williams' first year into the Shane Waldron phase, and then the post Shane Waldron phase. The Shane Waldron stuff made no sense at all. What they were doing,
zero,
none. Like, if you have a quarterback who wants to hold on to the ball, wants to kind of leave the kitchen out the back door, which is death in the NFL for quarterbacks, and run around, not necessarily downfield, run around sideways to try to throw the ball down the field, it's a losing formula, right?
Yep.
So recognizing that the quarterback wants to do that already, and then giving him permission to do that because of the way you bunch your formations together and how long it takes for some of the receivers to get open, it just didn't make a ton of sense with what they were doing. You've seen a lot more that does make sense in the last 2 weeks. DJ Moore is not a player you should put outside, wide and ask him to eat all the press coverage that he can handle. That's not his game.
Yeah.
He needs free releases. He needs to get open quick. He needs the ball in his hands. In some ways, he's more of like a running back kind of receiver. He'll make you miss. He's hard to get to the ground. They've been scheming him up to get the ball into his hands quicker. Yeah. Keenan Allen's still a good receiver, although he looks huge. Probably never him being that big with the Chargers.
Right. He looks like he's eating too much Chicago pizza or something.
Maybe, who knows? Good for him. But still, he's a legit a weapon who can get open in over short areas, right? Like in a phone booth, he's going to shake you. He's going to be open. And if Williams is willing to get rid of the ball quick, that offense has a chance to be tough to defend, because Rome Odunze should be your X receiver, and he will make plays with the ball in the air. He'll make plays down the field, and Caleb is going to give him a chance, right? So, this game, to me, there's a little bit of danger that I'm feeling, I guess, with this game. I don't know that there's any other way to say it than the Bears are trending better than they have all year offensively, and there's signs of life there, and they have legit weapons. Like, the three receivers, Cole Kmet, whether you like him or hate him, whatever, he can be a productive player. And then DeAndre Swift, he could shake you. He can make plays in the passing game. So that I worry about this particular matchup. It's a national game. It's a huge opportunity, and it's the kind of thing that if you were writing a storyline, this would be the breakout week for Caleb Williams. This would be the national spotlight kind of situation. Does anything I just said have anything to do with the real world that we're living in? Probably not.
Yeah.
You're right. Like, none of that stuff might mean anything, but then just kind of while I'm viewing it, like, this one has a little bit of that, I worry a little bit about this matchup more so than I have about any matchup in a little while.
I have a question for you. You're a guy that likes to sprinkle in some bets, and you pay attention to things that Vegas does from time to time. Is it telling at all that Vegas opened this thing up at 10.5 points? Is that just simply the home factor and how much better the Lions have been over everybody?
I didn't know that, and that makes me feel awesome to know that.
And again, I think Vegas might be playing a little bit here. They've even some sports books have come out and said, we do not like the Lions because they are so tough to gauge from totals to spreads. The Lions are the best team against the spread right now. They've been the best team against the spread since 2021. And I'm only saying this because I do all the research for Betting Pros on this stuff. But I look at that and I say 10.5 point spread. Vegas feels pretty confident in the Lions coming home and winning this football game. And this is the start of a 3-game home stretch for them. And I think it's very important to note that the Bears are 0-4 on the road this year. They've lost 5 in a row. So I can understand where you're coming from. They're due for a road win. They're due to break the 5-game losing streak. But my biggest thing is, like, yeah, they played tight to the Vikings, but they needed 17 points in the fourth quarter. They needed a miraculous onside kick to make it happen. And I just don't feel like the Vikings execute late in games the same way the Lions do. I feel the same way about the Packers, and I feel the same way about really any team in the NFL. The Lions just execute better late in games. And, at one point this game was 24-10, and it looked like it was over. I think it did get to 27-17 or something like that. And they needed to, use the magic at the end of the game. But I do get what you're saying with Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze and Cole Kmet and DJ Moore. The weapons are there, and if the Lions are unhealthy in the secondary, it's going to be problematic, and Caleb Williams can make things happen.
The Lions would have to lay an egg, like a total egg.
They're going to have to beat
to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to have to beat themselves. And I think the one benefit to the Lions is they continue to make teams one-dimensional. And that's what they did against the Colts. You said it. You said that. I mean, like, you couldn't have put it any better. They stopped Jonathan Taylor. I think they're going to stop DeAndre Swift. He might break a run or two. That happens to every team. But
sure.
I think they're going to make it very one-dimensional, just like the Minnesota Vikings did. I mean, when you look at the box score of it all for the Bears last week, they only ran it a total of 21 times. They dropped back and threw 48 times.
Yeah.
And Swift was 13 of 30 for, averaging not even 2.5 yards a carry. So I have
kind of the stat line I'm expecting, right? Like I'm kind of thinking that the Lions stuff the run and put Caleb Williams into longer down and distance stuff. And I honestly think it's better for chaos's sake to have Reeder and McNeil pushing the interior and forcing Williams to leave pockets sooner than he should.
Yep.
And to run around a little bit. He's gonna make some throws on the run that are just ridiculous. Like the one that last week where neither of his feet are on the ground to Swift down the sideline is just like, come on, like, yeah, it's nonsense. But he's also going to throw turnovers, and they're going to be 3 and out a lot, just because of the system that they run and how much downfield they want to throw it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that that would be exactly what the Lions would try to do is duplicate what happened last week. Stop Swift, put them into 3rd and long, and get them off the field and take them out of rhythm. It's just, I think there's so much hot and cold to what the Bears do on offense that if you get them out of rhythm, that's good. And I think the Lions can do those things. Well, it's just you fear for what could happen if they did get into a rhythm and stay there for a little while. I'm not saying I'm afraid of it. It's just it's something that we need to recognize. Like, yeah, their offense can make plays and has so far this year at times, but they've also looked really bad at times too. They've just looked better and more like things that you should be doing for Caleb Williams than what they did for the first 8 weeks or whatever it was.
Right. And I think if they can get in a rhythm, right, like that's the tendency breaker. What is the offense trying to come up with schematically to break a tendency? They want to push the ball downfield so often. They've shown that all year long. Maybe they get the ball out quicker this time, and it's more designed screens, and it's more quick passing stuff, quick outs and slants and those types of things. I think we could see a variety of things to see if they can get Caleb in a rhythm, especially if the ground game really starts to suffer, because this may be the best run defense they've played all year. I mean, I'm not discrediting Minnesota by any means. They've got a phenomenal defense, maybe the best defense in football, but the Lions they've really honed in defensively. And I think really the biggest thing is not so much what their defense is going to do. It's, will the offense execute better in the red zone? They didn't really execute great in the red zone against the Colts. Will they do better as they push the ball past the 50 into the 25 towards the goal line, those types of things? I think one of the big things, though, what's the status of Taylor Decker? Is he playing? Is he not? Because we saw 2-3 weeks ago what it was without him in the game against Houston, and it was brutal. And it's like, who did they put in there? Michael Neese, I think it was. He was playing at left tackle for a drive or two, and it's like,
well, Glasgow, I know Glasgow, because of some weird rule, took a snap at left tackle, and then I think with Decker out, they brought in,
I think it was Michael Neese.
He may have come in. He may have played guard during the snap that Glasgow took as the tackle, but I'm blanking on his name. How do I? Come on.
I just posted the snap counts the other day, so I'm going to pull that up while you rack your brain there.
So who started? I can't believe the left tackle started at left tackle against the Texans.
Dan Skipper.
Yeah, Skipper. So Skipper came in and played a little bit of left tackle, but he was not great against the Texans, and Goff knew it. So there was a little of that too. Like, if Goff is expecting pressure, he's a different guy. So this is an intriguing matchup. The Bears defense is good. They're really good. I guess just a summary for me is if the Lions execute well both ways, and then have some, I mean, I don't love the idea that St. Brown's returning punts, but
I hate that idea. That's a worse idea. That's the worst. That's worse. That's a worse idea than putting Vildor out there. That is a terrible idea.
Well, it's okay. If the whole plan is to get St. Brown back there and have him stick his hand up the air and catch the ball, totally cool. But don't expose him to some of that reckless contact, right? Mm-hmm. So they're in control of that stuff. But I don't love the idea of that. But if they execute well on offense and defense and do what they've been doing on special teams, which is just killing it, there should be no doubts about who should win this game. I mean, like you said, Vegas has got them at 10.5 for a reason. I tend to overthink some of this stuff, and I wanted to give too much credit to Richardson last week. with the way he might run around on them. And I'm going to give Williams a little bit too much this week. But the truth is he's a rookie who looks like a very overwhelmed rookie at times. Even last week, there were moments where he looked confused and rattled. I do think teams have figured out a little bit of that cover zero blitz stuff that Minnesota likes to do so much.
Yeah.
And I would expect the Lions to have some things in store for like some stuff that's going to confuse Caleb Williams. And I could, out of one side of my mouth for, 30 minutes, I've been telling you, 20 minutes, I've been worried about this matchup. But then I'll tell you that I think that Williams could turn the ball over a little bit too.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the game where Terrion Arnold gets his first pick and it's the national spotlight, kind of thing for him. This is an exciting matchup. It's a fun matchup.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really interesting, intriguing kind of game to watch back and forth to see how these two teams try to do things against each other. The Lions have the advantages just about everywhere coaching.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So, I feel really good about that. I worry about, like, everybody go back in time and think about how everybody was talking about the Green Bay Thanksgiving matchup 1 year ago to the day. And nobody saw that game coming.
Nope.
Right? Nobody did. So I'm just saying there's some, this feels like a trappy kind of environment.
No, anything can happen on NFL game day. It is what it is. Like, when the Lions started 1-6 or 1-7 and whatever it was, and they finished 9-8, like never would have thought that was going to happen. And then they've been on a roll ever since. But it's going to be really interesting. And I am curious, do they activate one of these offensive linemen that they drafted, Colby Sorsdale? Do you bring him in? Do you put Panay at left tackle and you put Sorsdale at right and maybe mix in Skipper in that? Do you bring in Giovanni Manu finally? I know he's not ready, but you're drafting these guys in the 4th and 5th round. You got to start using them or you're going to start cutting them like you did James Houston earlier today.
I like the idea. They have a roster spot open and that's intriguing, but I like the idea of Jamarco Jones as their left tackle, more so than moving everything around.
Yeah,
because let's be honest, no offense to Dan Skipper, but Dan Skipper's performance against the Texans, wow.
Terrifying. Right. It was terrible. Yeah.
So we'll see. That is one of the positions that they have to shore up. I hope Decker goes and I hope this is all for naught. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be a big one. I don't know what to make of this open roster spot. We are recording on Tuesday at like 7:00. There's a quarterback who got released and
no way are they signing Daniel Jones.
I think it would be super smart. I do. I think it's a sharp move.
I know where you live, dude. Come on.
It's sharp from this standpoint. I don't expect it to happen. But I like it. If something were to happen to Goff, I think you can do things with Daniel Jones that you can't with Hendon Hooker right now. Right? I like the idea of getting a compensatory pick for Daniel Jones for him to sign here right now and leave in the offseason. I think that's a cool idea. You need to start replacing some of the picks that you've moved.
I mean,
you do.
Yeah.
You're going to get a 5th rounder in 2026. That's what they gave up for Zadarius Smith, I think. I think that's what they gave up, or something along those lines. You need to recoup some of those picks. But there's also this. This is one of the reasons why I think Daniel Jones could end up wanting to come to Detroit. Wherever Ben Johnson goes, he's going to need a quarterback. And I'm not saying Ben Johnson goes anywhere in the next offseason. I don't know that that's going to happen. I have no idea. Yeah. But at some point in the future, my guess is he does leave to become a head coach somewhere. And if I'm a quarterback who wants to reinvigorate my career, that's one of the guys I might want to do it with. And if Daniel Jones needs to come here and sit behind Goff for a year and a half to then potentially leave as a free agent or whatever in 2 years to travel with Ben Johnson somewhere, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I like the security of what Daniel Jones would bring them as a quarterback more than Hendon Hooker right now. That's all. Is it a pipe dream? Yep, but we'll see.
Look, anything could happen. It could happen. I do wonder, do they, rather than going for the bigger fish, do they go towards their practice squad? Did somebody finally start putting something together for them, that's on their practice squad? They had the Mitchell kid, a cutie at their, however you say his last name. I really liked him in the preseason. I thought for sure there was going to be an opportunity for him to make the 53-man roster. Been on the practice squad. Maybe there's something there. Maybe he fits that Sam linebacker spot. I felt like he did, but I'm just a guy. So maybe that's what they're doing. They're going to activate him and put him on the 53-man roster for the final 6 games, or at least the next game, and see what you got. Or like you said, maybe they go for Daniel Jones, or maybe there's a corner out there they really want, or
there could be, and it's a short week, so this all could be a whole bunch of nothing that they might need to, just because of injuries and stuff. They just might need to bolster like their cornerback room, knowing that Carlton Davis may be out.
Yeah,
I know you just got Emmanuel Mosley back, but maybe you have to bring up somebody from the practice squad to play special teams for you or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So there's some it's a short week. So I'm not putting all that. I guess I was being conspiratorial there with the whole Daniel Jones thing, but we'll see. I would very much expect it to be a practice squad elevation, simply because of some of the injuries and some of the other stuff that they're facing on a short week, with the unknown of who's going to show. I mean, there's a lot going on. Like,
yeah,
Leaf Raymond, I think it sounds like it's a foot injury that could be long term. We just talked about how we don't love the idea of St. Brown returning punts. Maybe there's some of that.
Maybe there's a punt returner on the practice squad that is escaping me right now. It would have been Isaiah Williams.
And that's a bummer, isn't it?
God, but oh well. But well, we'll see. We could go on and speculate who they're going to sign and go over the whole roster and do everything, but I feel good about the game. Again, you're right. It could be a little trappy. It is Thanksgiving. Teams just,
I'm fired up for it though. This is like a really cool matchup. Like
it is.
The historic matchup of these two teams, especially where they are, like with the Bears sort of moving on from Waldron and feeling like they might be moving in a better direction, but the Lions have been so good and they are as dominant as it gets, across the league right now. So I wish it was Thursday at 12:30. I'm fired up for this game.
Yeah,
I am.
No, I'm with you. I can't wait. I truly cannot. I'm pumped to be cooking my turkey and basting it and having a few drinks and ready to go, ready to roll. It's going to be a lot of fun. Any big plans for Thanksgiving before we get on out of here?
No, I'll be basting my turkey as well.
All right. Well, good luck with that, man. Appreciate.
No, I took that I took that somewhere I shouldn't.
Oh, I thought this was family friendly.
Whatever.
Well, everybody, we appreciate the support, the constant support, the views, the comments. Last episode, there was a ton of comments. Appreciate it. You guys can rate, review, and subscribe to the Detroit Lions podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms. And of course, you can find us on social media of Twitter or X at Russ NFL Draft and Bischoff _Scott. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy the game. If you're going, be safe. Have fun at the parade, the whole nine, whatever you're doing. But he's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. We'll be back next week for another episode of Bischoff and Brown right here on the Detroit Lions podcast.